Hello there, I'm a fruit lion, and I'm going through an emotional roller coaster. My physical health is just through and through awful and plays on my brain every day, and yet despite it, I've recently found love for the first time. Whenever I feel overwhelmed and if my health allows it, I turn to video games, only sometimes they like to give me a good cook in the amygdala too. Anger, pressure, sadness, forethought, game scripts never seem to get enough credit for the emotional impact they can have. Indeed, I always remember the most emotional moments in a game's story before the gameplay. That may not sound great on paper, shouldn't I admire the gameplay first and foremost, but I firmly believe that game stories are as much a valid form of storytelling as any other. Before we begin covering some examples of these, please note that this video is going to contain heavy spoilers for the following games, so please pay attention. Spiritfarer, Kid Icarus Uprising, Trauma Center Under the Knife, Tales of Symphonia, Brok the Investigator, Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, phew, Sonic Battle, and Phoenix Wright's Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. It will also tackle some very heavy subjects, death, self-esteem, violent scenes, and more immediately, very dark themes like suicide, so please be careful. As fascinating as this topic can be, the last thing I want is to upset people. If that's okay, then let's begin. The Fall, Brok the Investigator. You wouldn't expect such a cuddly-looking game as Brok the Investigator to be so hard-hitting. Often cited as a game for those that grew up with 90s cartoons such as Tailspin, Brok's script is appropriate for such an audience who seek the charm of those days, while also being able to handle the more adult and darker themes that Brok can provide. Brok is just a big dad dial trying to provide for Graf after the passing of his wife Leah, in a world where overpollution has separated the gap between the rich and the poor more than ever. When he gets mixed up in a case that rocks his world to the core, ultimately it's up to you how things change for everyone. Brok's central gameplay hook is that you can either try to talk things out and be thorough, or just punch your way through. Everything can break, everyone can die. I couldn't bring myself to kill everyone, I mean, have you seen this pudgy Roo? But the fact is, there is an ending for being as abhorrent as you can. Bash, kill, manipulate, do anything to get Brok's violence stat as high as it goes, and Graf will confront him at home about his misdeeds.
I had no choice! I had to try and fix the mess you've caused!
The mess I have caused? You think everything's easy for me? I never asked for any of this. I had never raised a child, and I shouldn't.
No kidding! You murdered someone! Right in front of me! And who knows how many others? Destroy! That's the only thing you do! You destroy everything around you!
It all adds up, and in a scary turn of events, Brok ends up killing Graf too, during which he says some very harrowing words with a lot of dark connotations.
I remember that feeling.
With nothing left to his name, and in despair at what he's done, Brok decides there's nothing left for him except to fall. The credits decide to hit you one last time too, as some of Brok's victims face uncertain futures. This is far from the only emotional gut punch in the game. Look out for the ending that plays the wonderful song, Forget with Time. Alice's story, Spiritfarer. It seems like too easy an option to put this game on the list. After all, the entire point of the game is getting to know characters, but eventually they'll die anyway. Indeed, at the time of this video, I'm still playing Spiritfarer on my stream when my health allows me to. And can I just stop and say that I love Giovanni?
We don't deserve you. Nope, no one does. Okay, let's pack up, guys. We don't deserve Stella one bit.
The death of Gwen got to me, and Alice has too. But I already get the sense that Alice will be the hardest hitting death in the game for a simple reason. The fact that she suffers from dementia. Dementia is one of the scariest things in the world to me. I'd never seen a game story tackle the subject until Spiritfarer, but it handles the topic expertly and with complete understanding. Alice is one of the sweetest characters to board your boat. She never demands too much, she has an adventurous drive to see the world, she enjoys fashion and romance stories, and she has the warm look of a Beatrix Potter character. According to the official art book, she's inspired by the grandmother of Spiritfarer's creator. And as for her relevance in the story, the level of care Stella gives her, from walking her up and down the boat to moving her entire property, suggests a deeper bond than most characters. Being in a position of relying on others myself, it hurt to see Alice gradually deteriorate into no longer even being able to walk a short distance on her own. She begins to not recognize Stella or members of her family, and even occasionally lashes out in bursts of angry words from her confusion, saying things like Stella is smothering her, and when you finally take her to the Everdor, the place where she'll meet her end, she's all but forgotten everything, not even recognizing that she's dying, until the very last second. This list isn't in a particular order of preference, but I needed to highlight these two games first, because they prove that indie storytelling is just as magical as a AAA title, if not more so. I hope you'll take your time to support them. Linda Reed, Trauma Center Under the Knife. A medical drama is bound to cover at least one or two sad or dark moments, even a game like Trauma Center that focuses on a man-made virus called guilt with seemingly supernatural abilities. This is especially true of moments in the game that don't focus on guilt, and instead focus on real-world diseases and circumstances. But guilt certainly had a strong start in the story with its very first victim. Linda Reed's combination of contracting the virus and overdosing on a medication with harsh mental side effects results in her trying to take her own life. She turns up out of the blue and is saved in a seemingly routine operation, but when she comes to, she scolds protagonist Dr. Derek Stiles for saving her. Now, admittedly, this scene does hit below the belt, because Nurse Angie, Dr. Stiles' loyal assistant, tells Linda off for wanting to kill herself, which you should never do, I know firsthand. But thankfully, Derek knows what to say to make it better. He starts by citing a personal story about his own wish to take his own life, and how his mother talked him down. How does she do that? Derek demonstrates by handing Linda a mirror and instructing her to sincerely tell the person in the reflection that she wants to die. Linda breaks down in tears, unable to do so, but Derek's next words are very sweet, especially in the Wii version, Trauma Center's second opinion. He says that Linda should apologize to the girl in the mirror, and that she deserves the apology. Linda is clearly going through a terrible time, and Derek's message is that she deserves to be happier. Deep down, Linda really did want to live. She just needed to convince herself of that the most. This moment solidifies Derek as the best protagonist in the Trauma Center series. He isn't the most gifted surgeon nor the smartest guy, but he has something I wish more doctors I've interacted with had. A way of people and understanding that pain is awful to go through. This scene is emotional because Linda's thought process could affect anyone, as can Derek's message that life is precious, and sometimes we just need a little reminder of that. Which only makes it hurt even more when she becomes the first guilt victim in the following chapter and begs for Derek to save her life. Shion's death. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. The single reason that this isn't in the number 1 spot is because of Kingdom Hearts 3 undoing this game's tragedy. But the fact that there was a tragedy in the first place, and it couldn't have happened to nicer characters than Roxas and Shion, is what makes it so special. Now this is going to be a long one because Kingdom Hearts is convoluted, as I'm sure you know, so bear with me. Let's see. The story follows these two nobodies in Organization 13, along with Axel, trying to collect hearts so that they can amass enough power to create their own brand new hearts. This will give them emotions and real lives. For the record, a nobody in Kingdom Hearts is the shell of someone left behind when they die. They seemingly have no emotions, although the ones in Organization 13 at least remember how emotions work. Roxas and Xion begin the story as blank slates who can't get a handle on who they were before they became nobodies. Through both trials in the field and sharing sea salt ice cream together on a clock tower, they grow naturally closer in a super adorable way. Roxas lends Xion his Keyblade when she suddenly loses her powers. Xion brings Roxas seashells every day when he's been unconscious for weeks, and more besides. It's practically a love story without either character saying that it is so. But as the story goes on, Xion learns that she's an artificial puppet created to siphon the powers of the series protagonist Sora. In doing so, her very existence prevents Sora from recovering from his own unconscious state, and weakens Roxas to the point that the organization sees him as a liability. Unable to watch her friends suffer, she decides to give her power and memories back to Sora, but in exchange, she will vanish and be forgotten by all. When the leader of the organization catches on, he effectively brainwashes her into attacking Roxas to steal what's left of his power. The manga version of the battle that follows is more heartbreaking because we can see in Xion's mind the last thing she wants to do is kill her best friend, combined with her sad theme, and that she isn't the trickiest boss to defeat, and it's quite clear that she doesn't mean harm. When Roxas brings her down, he immediately begins to forget her. She tries to remind him one last time that Roxas is her best friend, only to pass away before Roxas can recall. The line, "Who else will I have ice cream with?" is often mocked, but it's the only way Roxas knows how to befriend anyone. The two are innocent from top to bottom. He's distraught enough to shed tears for Xion's death, even though by all logic, he shouldn't be able to. The scene that follows only hammers it home more, with Roxas single-handedly attacking the organization and saying,
I want Xion back. I want my life back.
It's deep, it's saddening, and it's cemented Roxas as my favourite character in the entire series. Every time I see Xion's death scene, I just can't help but get upset. It's expertly written, as is the entirety of Kingdom Hearts days, and criminally overlooked. At this stage, I'd like to bring up a handful of honourable mentions. There were dozens of ideas for this video, and I unfortunately couldn't draw attention to all of them. I'd like to at least give as many as I can some attention. Rain's mother, Tales of Symphonia. There are many memorable moments in this game, but the best is the one most people didn't even see. In this game's world, half-elves are so badly looked down upon that they've been banished to a floating island. Upon this island, one of the main characters, Rain Sage, meets her mother who abandoned her and her brother at a young age. Unfortunately, her mother has gone mad with grief, believing that a pair of dolls are now her children, and not even acknowledging the people in front of her as her real family. Rain's outburst at such a sight is both understandable, vulnerable, and brilliantly acted.
I'm Rain. I'm the daughter you shunned and abandoned, not that doll.
Emel's death, Sonic Battle. Most people would think of Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow's death, and while that is a brilliant scene, Sonic Battle gets the prize here. Emel is given a lot more screen time to bond with Sonic's crew and fight alongside them. When he inadvertently does need to be destroyed, not only is it surprisingly tear-jerking, but he never comes back, Gemel from Sonic Advance 3 notwithstanding. Not even in the comics. Pit's Sacrifice, Kid Icarus Uprising. Kid Icarus Uprising is a very comical game for the most part, and while it does tackle subjects in terms of war in a more serious light, the most heartfelt moment has to be when Pit proves his heroism, saving his dark self at the cost of his wings and very nearly his life. The acting at this point is absolutely fantastic.
The Chaos King is going to destroy Batu! Can't you see what's at stake here? I don't care if my wings catch fire!
It's a scene that leaves you closer to every character than ever before. Ugh, that still gives me the shivers in the worst way. Which brings us on to the last pick of the list. I do, Your Honour. Dual Destinies. You have no idea how hard it was to choose between this and the final moments of Farewell My Turnabout. Both left a significant impact on me, but whereas one solidified my favourite case in the series, the other reminded me exactly why Phoenix Wright is so special. So in the end, I chose this defining moment from Dual Destinies. Now, admittedly, there's a problem with this moment in that it takes place before the final showdown, so this case does take a tumble after this high point. That said, it's such a high point that it's always one of the first moments I think of about any story-driven game. Athena Sykes has just confessed to the gruesome, and I do mean gruesome, murder of her own mother, and the way she recalls and describes it seems so true and detailed that I honestly couldn't see a way out of it for her. On top of that, everyone seems to want her to be guilty, including herself. There follows a strong silence where the judge asks if anyone has any objections to her convincing confession, to which Phoenix simply says,
Objection!
These 4 simple words convey everything I love about both Phoenix as a character and the series he represents. He held on to his beliefs when I didn't, and he never forgot how much it means to have someone fighting in your corner. He's a paragon of a man, and his simple words carry a strong message of helping those most in need, no matter what. That simple phrase taught me so much more than many would expect. It didn't make me tear up like others on this list, but it will stay with me for the rest of my life, because even at my somewhat late stage of life, it taught me to be a better person. I hope this series and games as a whole can continue to touch my emotions for the rest of my life.